Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the jury?
It's Karina Kolokithas, Kolokithas.
Where is it that you live, ma'am?
I live in Canton.
How long have you lived in Canton?
We lived in Canton for about 13 years. Sorry, 20.
And when you say we, who, if anyone, do you live in Canton?
I live with my husband and my two daughters.
What's your husband's name?
His name is Nicholas.
How many daughters do you have?
I have two,
About how old are they?
18 and 16.
Do you work, ma'am?
I do work.
And what do you do for work?
I'm a pharmacist.
Your husband works as well?
He does.
What is he?
He's an attorney.
I'd like to turn your attention to January 28th and January 29th, 2022. All those days.
I do.
Do you recall what day of the week those were?
It was a Friday and a Saturday.
Specific to the Friday, did you work that day?
I did work that day.
After you left work, where did you go?
I went to the Canton Junction.
Why did you go?
We got a text saying some parents from the varsity team were going to be meeting up there, so I thought it would be a good idea to go and stop by and grab something to eat before the game.
The varsity team, which sport was that?
It's basketball.
Was that your older daughter or younger daughter that was on that?
My older daughter played on that team.
So at some point there was a game for the varsity girls basketball team?
That's correct.
Where was that game that night?
At Canton High.
Do you recall who they played at?
They played Fox.
Do you recall when the game was?
You mean time?
Yes.
6:30.
So you mentioned that you went to the Canton Junction for about an hour, so about what time did you get to the Canton Junction?
I believe I got there around 6. I'm not sure.
Following the Canton Junction, where did you go for work?
Went to Canton High to watch my daughter play.
Within sort of the stands at a Canton High girls varsity basketball game, were there certain people that you would typically with when you watch the game?
We just sit with whoever we knew. Usually it was the parents of the girls that played on the varsity team.
Who were some of those parents?
Some of them were the McCabe's, the Fitzgeralds, people like that.
McCabe's, what are their names?
Jennifer and Matt McCabe.
How long had you and your family known the McCabe's?
I think we've known them for about 9 years or so.
And did they have a daughter on the team as well?
They did.
So you arrived to the game, as far as your husband was concerned, did you observe him there?
He was there already.
Where did you go to sit?
I went and I don't exactly remember where I went to sit in the vicinity of my husband and those parents.
Following that game, where did you go from there?
So after the game, we went, usually at the end of the game, we go down, talk to the players, congratulate them, and then I told everybody I was going home.
And did you in fact go home?
I did go home.
After you arrived home, what if anything happened?
I started getting text messages from my husband, and he said that some of the parents were going to go to grab something to eat, and I should go.
What if any hesitation did you have about that?
I was tired. I worked all day. Pretty much I was done. So I had already almost started changing out of my clothes, and I said I wasn't going to go. My kids told me to go. They did. They said to me, you never go out. You don't do anything. Dad's by himself. You should go. And just keep him company while he eats dinner. So that's what I did. I did. Reluctantly. Sorry, reluctantly I went, yes. So that's when I went to CF. I'm sorry, I went to the waterfall. Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
And is the waterfall, is that somewhere you had been before?
I had been to the waterfall before. It's on Washington Street in Canton.
So obviously your husband was already there. You took several cars, is that correct?
That is correct.
And about what time is it that you got to the water?
I believe I got to the waterfall around 9:30 at night.
And where did you park your car in relation to the waterfall?
So I actually found parking right on Washington Street, and I was across the street from the waterfall.
When you arrived and when you came in, who, if anyone, did you recognize sort of when you first came into the waterfall?
So I walked into the waterfall, and there pretty much I didn't know anybody except for Matt McCabe, Jennifer McCabe, and my husband.
And if you could, sort of when you walk in the door, the people that you knew as far as your husband and McCabe, where were they in relation to you walk in the door, where are they?
So you walk in the door, there was a band in the front playing, and then there were high top tables, and they were at the back of the high top tables.
If I was standing at the doorway of the waterfall and the entranceway in, and facing those high top tables, which side were your husband and McCabe's on from that side?
On the right. I believe the band was playing on the, if you walked in the door, the band was in like the top part of the, like on the left, and they were on the right.
And the band was playing that night, fair to say it was fairly loud in there?
It was extremely loud in there, yes.
Obviously you're at a bar, people are drinking, is that correct?
That is correct.
What, if anything, did you have to drink that night?
I drank water that night.
And why was that?
I typically don't drink a lot. I suffer from migraines, so one alcoholic beverage sometimes can set me off for days. I chose water.
As far as that high top table that you went to with your husband and McCabe's, were there other people at that table?
There were other people there.
Did you know or recognize any of those other people at the table?
So it was pretty much all of Jennifer McCabe's family. I did not know them. Maybe I'd seen them around town and stuff like that, but I didn't know anybody other than my husband and Matt and Jen.
So fair to say that you gravitated or stayed towards that end of the table?
That is correct. I talked to them for a bit, and then I think Jen started introducing me to some people, and I met some of her family.
As far as the overall sort of demeanor within the bar that night, within the group that you were at the high top table with, how would you describe it?
Everybody was happy, having a good time.
No arguments amongst anybody at any time that you saw throughout the entire time you were there?
The whole time I was there was no issues at all.
At some point later on in the evening, who, if anyone else, did you recognize or knew came into the bar?
So I believe I was actually about to leave, and that's when Karen and John came in.
Just to be clear, when you say Karen, you mean Karen Read, is that correct?
That is correct.
Just to be clear, we're talking about, do you see Karen Read before today?
I do. She's sitting right there.
That's a record reflected identification. Now, Mr. O'Keefe, John O'Keefe, how did you know?
So John, his niece, and my younger daughter were friends.
We're friends, our friends?
They are friends.
And about how long have you known John O'Keefe?
John, we've probably known for 8 years or so.
If you recall, when was it about that you had met Miss Read?
I met Miss Read at, I'm not sure exactly I think the first time I met her was at Jen McCabe's house.
If you know about when was that in reference to this date of January 28, 2020?
I believe I met her
sometime in 2020.
That is correct.
How would you describe the nature of your relationship between either yourself and Mr. O'Keefe or yourself and who did you know better, Mr. O'Keefe or Mr. O'Keefe?
I knew Mr. O'Keefe better. We saw him all the time. My daughter would have play dates with his niece. My husband coached basketball that his niece played on his team. So he was a great guy. We saw him all the time. Yeah.
Prior to this date of January 28th, have you ever been in any kind of social setting out with Defendant Ms. Read before?
I had not been, no.
Do you recall approximately what time it was that they came in and you were about to?
I believe it was around 11 o'clock.
At some point today, and by day, Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Read, did they make their way over to where you were seated at the high top?
They did. So they walked in, and John did his rounds, said hi to everybody, gave me a hug, and they headed towards us, yes.
When they came over to you, what, if anything, happened?
John was really happy. He started talking about Kaylee and how she had just gotten into Bishop Fian, and he was just very excited. You could tell he was super excited about that.
Mr. O'Keefe was concerned, what, if anything, do you recall about what he was wearing?
I believe he was wearing a baseball hat, jeans, sneakers, some kind of top.
Do you recall about sort of a jacket or anything like that with him at any time that you saw him that night?
I don't remember a jacket. I remember like some kind of light shirt or something, like a light hoodie-ish kind of shirt. I don't remember a jacket.
As far as his clothing was what anything you recall about the condition of it, were there any sort of tears or disheveled to?
He looked fine. Nothing about his clothing stood out to me.
As far as what you observed as far as interactions between the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe that night, anything out of the ordinary that you observed while you were at the bar?
Say that again?
As far as their interactions between Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant, anything out of the ordinary that you observed between the two of them that evening as well?
I saw nothing. I did not see anything.
Extending that sort of to the entire group at the high top table that you were with, anything that you observed out of the realm of the demeanor that you've already described at any point in time?
No, everybody was having a great time.
With regard to where you were positioned at the high top table in regard to Mr. O'Keefe, was he closer to your end or where was he located?
I'm not sure. I don't know where he ended up going. I know that Karen stayed with me, and then I'm not sure where John went, but I know he was talking to the guys probably.
Mr. O'Keefe was moving around a bit, talking to different people.
Yes,
Ms. Read was down towards where you were, is that correct?
that is correct.
And if anyone else was down your end of the table, who were you talking to when Ms. Read came up?
It was Jen McCabe,
So
the three of us.
when Ms. Read comes and joins, it's essentially Ms. Read, the defendant, yourself, and Mr. McCabe.
That is correct.
When Ms. Read first comes up, what, if any, conversation did she have with either yourself and Ms. McCabe?
She started talking to Jen first, and then they had a conversation, and then we started talking.
And that first sort of initial conversation between the defendant and Ms. McCabe, did you hear any of that conversation?
I did not. It was loud. I don't know what they were talking about.
As far as, obviously, you're at a bar, people are drinking. What, if anything, did you observe Mr. O'Keefe be drinking that night?
I believe he was drinking beer.
As far as Ms. Read was concerned, what, if anything, did you observe her drinking?
She was drinking something out of a clear glass, perhaps.
Clear glass with clear liquid in it?
Correct.
As far as through any conversation that you had with either the defendant or Mr. O'Keefe, did you have any understanding of where they came from prior to coming into the bar?
So they had come from across the street,
And what is across the street?
from the bar. I think it was CF McCarthy's.
And so as far as the conversation that you, at some point in time during the course of the evening, you had a conversation with Ms. Read, is that correct?
We talked for quite a while.
During that time that you were talking for quite a while, as far as was that strictly the two of you or was Ms. McCabe involved in those conversations as well?
Ms. McCabe was involved with those conversations.
So just
It was the three of us.
The three of you were talking. With respect to the defendant's relationship with Mr. O'Keefe, what, if anything, did she say about that?
She started by saying how much she admired him, how much he did for the children, just how she looked up to him for that. She started with that. She started talking about my kids first, and then she started talking about John.
So she spoke about your kids?
About my daughter, yeah. She did. She always had a way of saying, I don't know, she seemed to love my younger daughter, and she said that she really liked my daughter's relationship with John's niece. So she first started with that conversation, and then she went on talking about John and his relationship.
And after she talked a little bit about that, what, if anything else, did she talk about?
So she started talking about how much he sacrifices, how he unconditionally puts all his time and effort into the kids, how she admired him for that, and how she also wished that some of the family members would step up and help out a little bit more, because he took all the burden on himself.
And what, if anything else, did she say about that in relation to sort of their relationship?
Just that she wished they had a little bit more time to go out, go on dates, go on vacation. But she did mention that they had planned a trip or something like that she was excited about.
About what time would you say it was that you left from the waterfall?
I think everything started wrapping up around midnight.
Prior to that, what, if any, discussion did you hear? Were you part of as far as anybody talking about where to go next?
So I think everybody was having a really good time. So there was conversation first about where could people go. There was talk about maybe going across the street to the pizza place.
And what pizza place is across?
There's a pizza place called D&E Pizza. The owner happens to be there that night. So I think someone brought it up, or there was some conversation amongst the group like, hey, let's go there. He said no.
What, if anything, did you hear the defendant, Ms. Read, say in reference to going to eat?
She just seemed like willing to go.
Was that something that she mentioned once or more?
I believe she mentioned it more than once, but I don't remember like at this moment. But
Would you remember that?
could you rephrase that?
Memory exhausted as to that particular point.
I believe it was more than once. Is that your question?
Definitely.
Yes.
Other than that, what, if any other discussion was there as far as where people were wanting to go or intending to go after what?
So after that was put to rest, then I think there was discussion about Jen McCabe brought up, let's go to my sister's house.
Was that somewhere that you or your husband, to your knowledge, had ever been to before?
We had never been to her house before, no.
Was that something that was a private invitation or was that sort of open to the group at the table?
I think it was said out loud, okay, anybody wants to go, we can go to my sister's on Fairview. I wasn't specifically invited myself. I just think it was put out there.
Did either yourself or your husband take anyone up on an invitation? Did you go to Fairview after the waterfall?
We did not go. I actually said to him, there's no way we're going anywhere. We're going home.
Right, and just be clear, by him, you mean your husband?
My husband, yeah.
Around the time of midnight or so when we're leaving, who, if anyone, did you walk out with initially?
I believe, let me think. It was always Jen, myself, and Karen. So we brought up, and Karen went over to John, something like that. He like put his arm around her. I don't know if they had a conversation, they talked. It seemed like they were like quite lovey-dovey at that point. And then that's when Jennifer McCabe went up to Karen and said, you're coming with me. And she like grabbed her, like she put her arm around her and she said in front of me, she said, you're coming with me.
And just how she said that, was that in sort of forceful way? Or
No, like joking around, hey, you come with me. And Karen said, where are we going? And Jen said, it doesn't matter. It'll be a surprise. It was like something like that.
Did the three of you walk towards the door to the parking lot together?
Yes.
And where was your husband at this point?
He was behind. He was with Matt McCabe. They were helping the band clean up and get their stuff together. It was the three of us in the front, meeting the women.
And at the initial time when you're walking out, you and Mr. McCabe and the defendant, where's Mr. O'Keefe?
I'm not sure. A little bit behind us. I'm not sure.
Not directly with your group, but
Not with us, no.
at some point you get outside of the waterfall, is that correct?
That's correct.
At some point when you're outside of the waterfall, do you see Mr. O'Keefe at that point?
I did. All of a sudden, it was weird. I see Karen with John, and I was like, oh, that's weird. I thought she was going with Jen. And that's just what made me notice it. It was that the whole, like, Jen wanting Karen to go with her, and then all of a sudden I see Karen with John. I just thought, it's just like, oh, so it made me notice it.
So you proceed to your car, I'm presuming on Washington Street, correct?
That is correct.
If you recall, which direction was your car facing, like down towards the waterfall or away from the waterfall?
It was away from the waterfall.
And who, if anyone else, did you observe walking in the direction of Washington Street at the same time?
That's when I saw Karen and John walking.
They were walking in that direction as well?
Correct.
Did you see them approach or get near to some sort of vehicle?
It looked like they were walking towards a black SUV of some sort.
Have you seen either the defendant or Mr. O'Keefe in relation to a darker black SUV prior to that date?
I believe I had, yes.
Whose car did you believe it was?
I thought it was Karen's car.
And which side of that vehicle did you observe Karen walking to?
She was walking to the driver's side, but again, I was more concerned about crossing Washington Street, and there was a little bit of snow at that point. So I saw them walking in that direction, her going to the driver's side and John going to the other side, but I didn't see anything after that.
Were they on the same side of the street as you or the other?
They were facing the opposite direction.
So you were facing away from the waterfall, they were facing towards the waterfall, is that right?
We were in different directions. So I was like, it's hard to explain, but they were facing, like I was facing up and they were facing.
And different sides of the street, is that correct?
That is correct.
And you got in your car when you left, is that correct?
That's correct.
And around that time that you left, I think you alluded to it, but when you got to your car, what was the weather like at that point?
It had just started snowing. You could see the street still.
So you could still see the blacktop through whatever snow was on the ground?
That is correct.
With the court's permission, I'd just like to publish just what's been marked as Exhibit 53, just a couple of portions of that on the screen this way.
Okay.
Ms. Gilman, if I could, I'd ask first under the second video from Channel 3, again, if I could ask for approximately 9. So Ms. Kolokithas, you recognize what's up on the screen?
Yes,
What do you recognize it to be?
that's the waterfall.
Is this a video that you've seen on prior occasion?
Yes.
Before you, ma'am, there should be a laser pointer. If there's any need for either myself or another attorney, all I would ask you to do is press that button on it and direct it at the screen. Right.
Yep.
So from this video, first of all, as far as the people in the video, do you recognize anybody in the video?
Really hard to see, but it's my. You want me to point?
If you recognize anyone, I would ask you to draw the jury's attention.
Oh, sorry. That I believe is my husband. With that, maybe I'm not sure.
So if you don't know, or if you can't tell, or you don't know the people,
I'm not sure. It's hard to tell.
This is just from up on this video. You recognize sort of the table that you were at around on the evening of
Yes,
January
the
28th.
high top. Yeah.
If you could, just direct the jury's attention to, generally speaking, which side of the table that you spent your time talking to Mr. Cave.
If we're pointing to here, I'd be on that side, like the left side of the table, if you want to call it the left side.
The area where the band was, if you could.
The band is here, like that's the left, yeah, on the front.
If the front door area, so where is that located?
It's right there.
Ms. Gilman, if you could, just run this video from 10:59 to 11 p.m. Get that down. And with court's permission, I would ask for, from the same Channel 3, the 6th video. And Ms. Gilman, if I could direct you to 12:09 and 50 seconds. Great. It's later on in the evening at the waterfall, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And is this towards the end of the evening?
Yes, it is.
And fair to say that the lights have been turned up, so it's a little easier.
So now I can recognize a few more people.
So from what you can see up on the screen now, if you could, using that laser pointer, just direct the jury's attention to anybody that you recognize.
Oh, okay, so that's me right there, and then my husband is right there, Nicholas, and I don't know, that's Matt, Jen. I can't tell because of the barcode up there. Yeah, I can't see who that
And if
is.
you could play it from this
Oh, I
point.
see John too. Sorry,
please.
I see John. John's right there.
Ms. Gilman, if you could play from this point till 11 and 4 seconds. Pause it right there. As far as this is the record at 12:10:38. See 3 individuals going towards the front entrance.
Yes.
What do you have to say?
Yes.
With respect, with that laser pointer, if you could just identify for the jury who, if anyone, you recognize from that group.
Okay, so that's Jennifer McCabe, that's me, and that's Karen.
So you're walking towards the exit at the same time, right?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could. There's another individual making their way to the doorway. Do you recognize that person?
Yes, that's John.
That's John O'Keefe.
John O'Keefe, yes.
Exiting from the wall.
Correct.
Ms. Gilman, if you could, just play the last 2 seconds. Okay. If I could ask you from the same exhibit, but from the third video down on channel 1, if I could ask you to fast forward to about 12:11. Essentially, what I'm going to ask Ms. Gilman is if you could play this from 12:11, 0 to 12:11, 25 seconds. And just pause it for 1 second. I know it's an awful time to pause it, but before the flag go in front of the camera, do you recognize what's depicted up there?
Can you repeat the question?
What's in
please?
this video generally without blocking the camera right now? Do you recognize
It's the exit.
So that's the exit to the waterfall?
Correct.
Ms. Gilman, if you could. Down towards the bottom of the frame, do you recognize who that is?
It's Karen and John.
So that would be the point in time when you say they link up at the front door and then walk towards Washington Street?
That's
And
correct.
if you could, just with reference to the screen that we're looking up here in Exhibit 3, where is Washington Street? What parking where you observed Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Read walking?
Trying to think of the buildings. That's the back parking lot where you see the cars, and you have to take a left.
Directly in front of where Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Read are standing is the back parking lot, and then to the left is Washington Street.
Yeah, I think you have to walk that way, and you'll hit Washington Street.
Ms. Gilman, if you could, just play through 25 seconds. Have you seen an individual in the parking lot area?
I do.
Recognize who that person?
I believe it's Jennifer.
By that, I mean, I'm sorry, Ms. McCabe.
Miss McCabe.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could, the last person. Okay. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down, please. I have one moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
thank you, Your Honor.
Hello.
You and I have never met.
We have not.
We've never had a conversation.
Never.
We've certainly never interviewed.
Nope.
together.
Never.
So this is our first time speaking.
Yes.
I want to direct your attention to part of your testimony on direct examination when you questioned by Mr. Lally. You indicated that before Ms. Read and Mr. O'Keefe left the bar, Ms. Read had been making some statements about Mr. O'Keefe.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
You indicated that she said that she admired him,
Yes.
that she looked up to Mr. O'Keefe.
Yes.
She always had a way of complimenting him,
Yes.
that he took so much responsibility on as it pertained to the children, and that she did wish that they had more time together.
Yes.
They planned a trip together,
Yes.
and she was excited about that.
Correct.
And she indicated that John was excited about that as well.
Yes.
Just before leaving the bar, you indicated that Jennifer McCabe said to Miss Read, "You're coming with me," correct?
Yes.
She didn't say, "You and John come with me."
No. Correct.
That was directed just to Miss Read.
Yes.
You're familiar with the town of Canton generally?
Yes.
You know that the distance between the Waterfall Bar and 34 Fairview would be maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes drive.
Probably.
Just after these statements were made, they went to 34 Fairview. 5 minutes later, 7 minutes later, they'd be sitting in front of 34 Fairview, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Ms. Kolokithas, anything?
Just bear. So, Mrs. Kolokithas, with reference to your relationship with John O'Keefe, as far as what you were relaying was what the defendant had said to you at the bar that night, correct?
Correct.
Fair to say you didn't have any conversation with Mr. O'Keefe in reference to relationship or trips or anything like that?
Not that night. No.
As far as your relationship with Mr. O'Keefe is, do you have any sort of discussions at any point in time about his relationship with Ms. Read or anything going on in that relationship?
He didn't tell me personal things. No.
You didn't have that type of relationship, correct?
Correct.
And this time out on January 28th, that was the first time that you had been out socially with the defendant, Ms. Read, correct?
Correct.
So as far as what went on behind closed doors at the home or anything like that, you didn't know anything about?
I did not know.
I have one question, Your Honor, if I may. But what you did observe between the two of them that night, to use your words, they were lovey-dovey.
They were.
All right, Kolokithas, you are all
Thank
set.
you. Thank you, Your Honor.
So it's quarter of, just a minute. Feel free to stand. It makes sense to let you go a little early, and we'll start questioning. So please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into the case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about the case, please disregard and let us know. See you tomorrow.
Jurors, closing your notebooks and leaving them on the chairs. Gather your belongings. Follow me. All hands, hurry up, please.
Goodbye.
Any evidentiary issues I need to be concerned about tomorrow with this next witness?
Not a comment. Your Honor, we have, I believe, provided every exhibit that we intend to introduce through this witness. They are all photographs and/or screenshots that we would have lined up. I'm happy to show them to Mr. Lowry in terms of the specific ones that we would be using before we leave today.
So just so it's clear, anything you intend to introduce, you have to show them in advance.
I know we've provided them, is what I said originally.
So,
And I certainly will show them before I show them to the witness. What I'm offering is to show them now before we break.
yes, so I'm telling you that, yes, show them to him before we break.
Exactly what I suggested.
Anything that you intend to show us, introduce tomorrow.
Sure.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll see you tomorrow.
All rise for the vote, please.